Hello again, everybody. Paul Gerald with Groundhopper Soccer Guides, and today I got another fan chat for you. A fan chat is simply a chat with a fan of an English football club, all about their club, their traditions, their stadium, their city, maybe some of their ground hopping adventure. You can see all the previous fan chats right up here. One of those was with Alan, who is a Sheffield United supporter. So I felt like I better get somebody from the blue side of the Steel City on, lest I be called a favorite one way or another. And I'm strictly neutral on the whole Sheffield football question. So today we got James of Sheffield Wednesday. He's going to tell us a little bit about, for example, where that name came from or where maybe it came from. A little bit about their stadium, Hillsborough, about the city, about the surrounding area, some of the food and beer that you can look for when you're going to a game in Sheffield, which I think you should, by the way. Either of these clubs, I think, are great places for the neutral lover of football to go. And if they ever get back in the same league and play each other again, you'll definitely want to see that game. So do enjoy our chat with James of Sheffield Wednesday. Be sure to check out the one of Alan with Sheffield United as well. Put some comments down below. Let us know other clubs you might want to hear from, or maybe you are a supporter of an English football club and you'd like to come on and do a fan chat. Please let us know. We would love to hear from you. Put a comment down there, or just send us an email. You can send me an email personally, paul@groundhopperguides.com. All right, thanks very much. Enjoy the chat about the Wednesday, and we will see you at the grounds. All right, so welcome, James. James of what's the town again?
Drumfield.
Drumfield, outside of
near
Sheffield in the
Sheffield.
Peaks District.
Yeah.
So,
Near Sheffield in the Peak District, that's right, yeah.
all right, and you are a Sheffield Wednesday supporter.
I am, for my sins, yeah. Yeah, so the blue half of Sheffield.
Right. So I guess as an American, I know the story, but why don't we start with the name Wednesday? It's the only club I know that has a day of the week in the name. Where did that come from?
Right, so Sheffield has an interesting feature, and I'm sure you probably know this, Paul, that Sheffield FC, their football ground, which is about half a mile from where my house is in Drumfield, is actually regarded as the world's oldest football club. I don't know if you know, it's Sheffield FC.
That, yeah.
Yeah, it is regarded as the world's oldest. That's half a mile away from where I'm sitting.
Nice.
Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United. Yeah, it's two of the oldest clubs. Sheffield Wednesday. Oh God, with regards to history, I don't actually think it's 100% clear why it's called Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
I think there's various theories, but I don't think it's ever been conclusively.
The version that I heard was that, like a lot of the old clubs, it started out of a cricket club or just a general athletics club, and that I think they would meet on Wednesday to play cricket, perhaps. And then they started, like a lot of the old clubs, they started a football club or team during the winter to stay in shape and stay active, because cricket is in the summer, right? And then it sort of evolved from there, but they were the Wednesday club. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories all around this, but my understanding is I don't know if it's ever been. There seems to be a lot of confusion and a lot of different stories, and what is exactly true,
right,
is depends who you talk to. I've heard all these things about it's because we played on Wednesday and we used to share a ground and blah blah blah. But I think it's like almost like mythical with regards to Wednesday as to who came up with, a day of the week as a football team's name. It's a little bit hazy. So.
And I've heard it, sometimes people refer to it as Wednesday or as the Wednesday. Is that a thing? Or did I hear that wrong?
Yeah, Wednesday. Often people like locally say Wednesday, and everybody will know straight away what you mean.
Right.
One of the famous phrases or sayings we have locally is "wah wah," so that's "we're all Wednesday, aren't we?"
Okay.
We're all Wednesday, aren't we? Yeah. So right. So you hear Wah wah a lot. UTO, which is up the Owls. The Owls is our nickname.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah. We're obviously, we do regard ourselves as a huge club, although we've not had much success since we beat Manchester United in the League Cup. I think it was 91.
Yep.
When actually an American player, we used to have an American player in the 90s. I think his name was John Harkson,
That's
actually.
exactly right. John Harkes.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was one of the first probably Americans playing in England. And it was a really good player. I believe they've had nights, they've had like fan forums and dinners in Sheffield where he's come back and done speeches and things, I believe. I don't know where he lives. I think he lives in the States now, back again, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's the
any more than that.
answer to a trivia question. He's the first American, not the first American to play at Wembley, because that happened back in the 50s or 60s, but he's the first American to score a goal at Wembley and the first American to win any trophy in English competition. So
yeah,
I think he had the goal of the season one year, didn't he?
Wilson. Worthington switches it to Harkes on the right. That's a good effort. Oh, what a tremendous goal by John Harkes. His first ever in English football, and one he'll remember for the rest of his days.
Yeah, he was always a really popular player. And yeah, I mean, it's going back a while now. I think that's the thing about Wednesday when we're talking about success. It's a distant memory. It's in the 90s, usually. Which is a long time ago. We're talking 30 years nearly. So
I know. Yeah. So how did you get started as a Wednesday supporter?
So like all kids, generally it comes through families. So you tend to support who your dad supports or who the family supports. And everybody in my family, all my cousins, my sister, my brother, we're all Wednesday. There's not a single Blade or Sheffield United fan.
Okay.
So I think the tradition is here. I'm sure it's probably the same in America. You take the team who your dad supports, and that is it's like your birthright almost. You can't, you don't argue. So yeah, it's through my dad really taking us as kids to Hillsborough, which I mean, I was thinking about this earlier, and so when I was younger, so I'm 45 now, so this was say in the sort of early to late 80s, could be a little bit intimidating going to football games in this in the United Kingdom, because there was what's called hooliganism.
Yeah.
Where basically there would be quite significant amounts of fist fighting. And I remember some hairy moments where there was basically fights kicking off in front of you, and as a kid that's quite a scary thing, and the police fighting with fans, and it's not like that anymore, of course.
No.
But that was when there used to be the sort of the stand-up areas in grounds. Which has been done away with now. It's all sat down. It's rare that anything ever sort of kicks off, but definitely at that time, as a kid, I remember a few times things kicked off a little bit.
Sure.
It was a bit scary.
I wonder, I know it's hard to compare something from 30 years ago, but I wonder, obviously games are safer now.
Yeah,
but
definitely. They're really safe now, totally safe.
But have you also lost something? Are they less exciting? Is the atmosphere? I've heard a lot even about the noise of the crowd is just fundamentally different now than what it was 30 years ago.
I think the thing is, so when I remember back as a kid in the 80s, because of all the trouble, the police and the government insisted on fencing, usually at the bottom, so you were hemmed in, especially in the standing areas.
Yep.
And that obviously led to the Hillsborough disaster, which, funnily enough, my dad was at that game, not at that end, but he was actually there in one of the stands when the 91 Liverpool fans were sort of crushed. He was actually present.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when they standing up areas were there was just a lot more people all packed together.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's like, the psychology of crowds, because you're surrounded by hundreds of people, like you feel brave, don't you? And so I think it sort of gave people a false sense of confidence and aggressiveness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was louder and just a bit more, aggressive. Whereas now, obviously, everybody sat down and has to behave nicely, and there's millions of stewards and loads of police, and the slightest bit of kerfuffle, and they just throw you out. So, whereas Whereas, yeah, I think, thinking back then to the 80s, I think really they had to tolerate quite a few things that they probably wouldn't tolerate now. And it probably was just, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there wasn't as many entertainment options as what you've got now. So you got a lot of young men who, and there was difficult economic times. People used to drink a hell of a lot. And so you got a lot of aggression, and it used to, you used to see that in football grounds.
I think they still drink a fair amount, don't they?
Yeah, they do,
but not at the games. So I
think they can't. It's not allowed in the seats anymore. But everybody generally has a drink under the stands. Most people have a couple or 3 or 4. But yeah, I think compared to the old days when people were having like 10 pints, and that was regarded as not very much.
Right.
You can see why people used to be so aggressive. But it's a nicer, more family atmosphere now. Everybody's sat down and well behaved, so it's just a slightly different. And also the fans are different. I mean, back then the fans would all be local people. Now, especially as you go up the league, especially in the Premiership, people fly in from all over the world.
Sure, like America, for example.
I'm sure. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure there's lots of Americans who sort of fly in. I mean, I've been to Wembley Stadium when there was thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans actually when the NFL game was on at Wembley.
Oh,
anyway,
sure.
That's another story.
So I'm curious to go back first of all just to the growing up in the city of Sheffield. Is there a geographical split like between United and Wednesday? Is it a cultural class thing? I mean, like what patterns emerge, if any?
That's a very interesting question, and I think it's changed over time.
Sure.
Now, I think, and I've spoke to other people about this. Now, I think a long time ago, probably when I was little, in the 80s, it was, and because of where the Wednesday ground is as opposed to the United ground's in a bit more of a working class area, and the Wednesday ground was in maybe a slightly better area. I think my opinion of it was that in the past there was a bit of a socio-economic split. So it would be between geography and socio-economics. So therefore, if you lived near the Wednesday ground, obviously you were likely more likely to be a Wednesday fan, but also if you were from the wealthier side of the city, you were probably more likely to be a Wednesday fan. And therefore, conversely, for the Blades, if you lived near that part of Sheffield, which was a lot more working class, I'd say, than the Wednesday fans, or if you were of a sort of poorer socioeconomic class, then that was always my opinion that you would be a Blades. So I think that it did used to hold, but I think now it's more to do with, as United have had more success more recently, it's probably more due to do with when you were born. So who was the bigger club when you were born? I mean, it's a bit more hazy now. I think it used to be more sort of clear cut, whereas now it's, as United have had more success more recently, it's probably, if you're younger, you're probably more likely to be a Blade than an Owl. But I think I don't think there's a simple
you can't
answer.
Change,
You can't change. And there has been talk in the past about how the fact that we're 2 medium-sized clubs and we should merge, and people have said that's no, it wouldn't be that'd be like merging America with Mexico. It wouldn't. It's not. You can't do it.
Yeah,
it's impossible. It's like oil and water.
Right.
So there'd be civil war. You couldn't. It's impossible. You can't do it. So nobody would want it. I don't know who would come up with. In fact, a football fan wouldn't even say that because it's just ridiculous. It's it's not even a floatable idea. But.
And it is funny, over the history of the clubs, it seems that whenever one is up, the other one is down. I mean, I've looked over the history of the last 20, 30 years. They don't seem to be in the same league too often, and and we can, I mean, obviously Sheffield United has just come out of the Premier League, and we can talk about where Wednesday is in a moment, but it's quite different tracks, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, So when I was younger, Wednesday they were always a much more successful club. So in the times before the Premiership, Wednesday were like generally Division One, which is now the Premiership. United were sort of Division 2, 3, and 4, I think, at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So we were always by far the more successful, bigger club. We always saw ourselves as a, Division 1, top 6 sort of club, and United were small fry that we didn't really have much to do with because they were a much smaller club. But yeah, it's like, and now that, in the last 20 years since Wednesday left the Premiership, I think it was, what was it, year 2000, something like that. With United are almost seen as the bigger club now, and we have, this year we've both gone down. So I think it's unprecedented for both clubs to go down. I think that's never happened before.
Oh, wow.
So they've gone down to the Championship. We've gone down to League One.
Right.
So we've both, had very difficult seasons. So United had very few victories. Wednesday, we struggled to stay up, and we didn't in the end due to the fact we had a 6 points sort of taken off us because of our owners, and the owner, who is Thai, Mr. Chancerai, and he was obviously with the financial fair play rules, and initially we had 12 points deducted and now 6. So yeah, and I was really hoping, I thought one good thing that could have come out of the pandemic is United come down and we stay up and we play each other, in the derbies, which we have done in the past, and they're quite aggressive games. I think you've been to one and you've seen.
I've been to both. In the 1920 season when they first came back, I went to both of them. Yeah, I'll travel all the way across the country to a derby. I went to Grimsby to see them play Scunthorpe. I don't care. I'll go anywhere.
Yeah, well, the Steel City is one of the unique ones, and it's quite an aggressive, one that's full of quite a lot of aggressiveness and hatreds for ridiculous reasons. That we're blue and they're red, and it's almost like human nature. This need to be in a tribe.
Yeah,
we all have to. We all identify with certain things. Yeah. Like if we identify as blue, but you're red, therefore we hate you, and you're not us, and we can't never be you. Right. It's bizarre, but then we all share a city. But
that's what I've always been shocked by. Even I went to the derby. I went to Norwich to see them play Ipswich Town, and lovely people out there, except for that day, and in which case they're yelling scum at each other, and you would think that the entire other city needs to be burned to the ground. And I just often wonder, obviously we have rivalries here, but it's just not the same. And I just wonder, what is it like? You must have lots of friends that are Blades. And I would assume that 363 days out of the year, it's a lot of friendly banter and back and forth.
Yeah.
But then there's those days when the derby is on that everybody kind of goes insane, maybe.
Yeah, and we have little sayings like I say to my one of my best friends who's a Blade. I say to him that we want to drink the blood of Blades as family families. It gets ridiculous, and then they send loads of some of my friends who are Blades send pictures on WhatsApp. Yeah, it is quite cutting to a level. It's childish. I don't know. Is it an Anglo-Saxon thing? If you look at the UK, I was reading the other day that there's only 6 countries in the world that we haven't had a war with, occupied, or attacked at some stage in our history. Really? So is it something to do with the Anglo-Saxon mentality? I don't know, that we're a warlike nation, and we need to find somebody to be at war with. I don't know. It's strange.
It is strange, isn't it? Oh well. Do you enjoy the derbies?
Yeah, to the ones I've been to. Yeah, and I think there's always an electric atmosphere, and there's always extra police, and the police are always a bit tense because they have to keep us totally segregated, and all the public transport has to be separated. So
the game I saw at Hillsborough, and I assume it was the same when it was back at Bramall Lane, was that the United supporters were basically not allowed to just travel on their own to Hillsborough. They had to get on a bus at Bramall Lane and go over and be dropped off right outside their entrance at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's to stop any sort of ambushes or fighting. Which there's gonna be some. There's
yeah,
gonna be some, you know, and there's always certain pubs or certain areas where it kicks off, and you
yeah.
know, I don't believe anybody's been killed in the Steel City
No, that's good.
derby fighting. You know, there's punch ups, and I think pubs
Sure.
get attacked sometimes. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you know,
I
it's
had
not
I
it's
had a
not that
Blade on
serious.
earlier. I had a Blade on a fan chat, and he said he frankly doesn't. In the derbies are so intense, and you're so worried about losing. He said the only time he enjoys them is after your team has won. Otherwise, it's a completely miserable experience.
Yeah,
So,
because you know there was one. Oh, was it a few years ago? I think Wednesday lost. I think you were at that one where Wednesday lost at home.
yeah,
Was it 4-2?
that's right.
And for years, Wednesday fans have always sung about the Boxing Day massacre. I
Right.
think it was 1979 when we beat them 4-0.
Yep.
We've been singing that since it happened in the 70s. And then suddenly they come to Hillsborough and beat us by 2 clear goals. And then, well, what we've been singing that for 30 years. What do? We can't be singing about that. Well, I think we still do, but you understand the point. It's
Yeah.
like that's our USP, the Boxing Day massacre. And then they come to the Hillsborough, slaughter us. Now they actually now go on about that. They sing about that.
That's right. They call it the
So-
Bouncing Day Massacre, I think, because
They do, yeah,
Yeah.
because they were we were bouncing or something, or they were bouncing, and
yeah,
then
you have
they,
a song, right? If you don't bounce, then you're a blade. Is that something? I couldn't catch all the words. If you, yeah, I've got
I
a
mean-
video that I took, which is why I was in the Sheffield
yeah, I
Star
think
and
I've
why we
seen
met.
that. I've
So,
seen
yeah.
that video of yours.
Yeah, that's what it
no, that
was,
was
because
interesting.
I took the video because the Wednesday supporters had just leveled it at 2, and
Yeah.
they were going crazy. And I think they were singing, "If you don't fucking bounce, then you're a blade." So the whole
Maybe,
stadium was
maybe.
bouncing, but while they were bouncing, United scored to go ahead, and then it became a completely different scene.
There is something I should tell you about with songs. So Sheffield United, there's a John Denver song, Annie's song.
Oh yeah,
Now they adapted that to their lyrics, and they sing it as
sure.
the greasy chip butty song, like a
Oh,
night out in
I
Sheffield,
know
like
it
a
well.
greasy chip
Yeah,
buddy. But
absolutely.
it's the John Denver song, Annie's song, that
Right.
they've changed the lyrics of, and yeah, there was a documentary on the BBC about how that actually started, because it's such a well-known thing that the Blades fans do.
Yeah.
And it actually was traced back to, I think it was in the late 70s or early 80s. It was written by a Rotherham United fan.
Oh.
And then the Blades fans stole it and adapted it for their use. But yeah,
There
if
you
you
go.
ever get a chance, it's a documentary, probably under the radio podcast under the BBC, about
Okay.
the greasy chip butty Annie's song. It's really,
Right.
it's about an hour long, but it's really interesting, all about the history of how it happened. If you want to,
I'll
you
find
want
it
some
and
knowledge.
I'll link to it in the description on this video.
Yeah,
As a
no,
good
it's
YouTuber.
it's fascinating. I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it if it wasn't interesting, but if you
Yeah.
find it, Paul, it's really good.
Yeah. So now Wednesday has a pregame song too, at least a bit of a tradition with the Hi Ho Sheffield Wednesday, right?
Yeah, hi ho, Sheffield Wednesday.
That's
There you go.
I believe an old Jeff Beck song called Hi Ho Silver Lining, I think.
Yeah, it is. And years and years ago, I just remember we used to have Tears for Fears. There was an English band called Tears for Fears, and we used to use their song as our intro. I can't remember the exact words, but yeah, that was that was another song that we had. But yeah, now it's the one that you mentioned before. But
Okay.
but yeah, it's always. I think most clubs have a little song, don't they? Like obviously, the iconic one is Liverpool.
Sure.
Never Walk Alone.
Right.
And they do that for every match, and that's how they start.
Yeah.
In Wednesdays, it's a bit more low key, and a lot of the other clubs, it's a bit more low key.
Yeah.
But
And,
it's
you know,
just
maybe you know this, but Wolverhampton has the same thing. That with the hi ho, they sing hi ho Wolverhampton to exactly the same
yeah,
song.
it doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of that if you look through the leagues, teams sharing that introductory song. Like I believe Liverpool is not the only team that has the Never Walk. I'm sure I
Yeah.
read somewhere that
I
they're
think
not the
Glasgow
only team.
Celtic sing it. So
Yeah. So
the strangest one
there's
to
a lot
me
of
is
that.
actually well, there's two strange ones. The one at Everton, the theme song from an old TV show that I don't know, but apparently called Z Cars, I guess, an old television
Ooh.
police.
That's an
program.
American. Was that an American show?
I don't think so.
Was it?
No.
Okay.
If it was, I would know it. But
Oh.
Everton and Watford both come out to that one, and it just is not. It's just a strange thing to hear coming out of the speakers. So tell
Yeah.
folks about. I want to sort of hear a little bit about the stadium. I mean, it's depending on who you ask, it's either a grand old stadium or a rusty dump, or perhaps both. I don't know. I enjoyed Hillsborough. What's it like, and where are your seats, for example?
Yeah, so I don't have a season ticket. I've never actually had a season ticket. I always go on demand just because I've got a busy life.
Yep.
And I just think it's easier. I mean, with technology, years ago you had to go to the ticket office and rat around and pay cash and get a ticket and then go. Now, obviously, you can just go online. You get a Sheffield Wednesday account, go online, and buy your tickets on demand, print them out on your printer, and you're done. It's easy.
Yeah.
So we always tend to sit in the north stand. I don't know particularly why that is. I think my dad always suggested we do the north stand, and it's never changed. I think as kids, when I was a kid in the 80s, we used to go on the Cop. When we could, we used to go in the standing up area, but that was obviously a long time ago. That's sort of changed.
Okay.
So we always go in the north stand. And just sit up. We sit all there. I mean, we always meet up. We generally always drive near the sort of stadium, park up. We have sort of set places where we park, not too far away, and then we'll always meet up in a pub sort of before. Have a few pints before, and then walk to the stadium. And at half time we have a couple of pints. But yeah, we generally sit in the north stand and just sort of buy the tickets on demand, which is
that's
the most convenient way of doing it.
Two long stands along each side, and then you got the Cop behind one goal, and the Leppings Lane, I think, is behind the other.
Yeah, so Leppings Lane, that's the end where there was the Hillsborough disaster, where the 96 Liverpool fans died in 86.
Yeah.
So yeah, just in terms of Hillsborough, I mean, yeah, it's not a modern stadium, but it does have a certain amount of character. It doesn't, the seats are quite narrow. I'm 6'5", so when I sit in the seats,
yeah,
my legs, my knees hit. I've got an identical twin brother as well, so we generally go together. So our knees hit the back of the seat. So it's the little things like that make it, uncomfortable. And in a modern stadium, you'd have nice, comfy chairs with lots of room and a little holder for your drink and all that. But that's sort of part of it.
Yeah.
It's like a classic car. you don't get sat nav. You don't get a great automatic gearbox and great AC and all that. But it still doesn't mean it's not a brilliant car. And some of the classic cars are better than the modern cars. It's just different. I mean, I will say this. I think it's never been the same, Hillsborough, since that disaster in the 80s.
I can imagine.
So, yeah, because you're looking at that. You're looking at the Leppings Lane end, and you're thinking, God, 91 people were crushed to death. Right there.
Yeah.
And I think it was certainly the worst disaster in the. I think definitely in the UK's history. It was a bit of a freak disaster, and and I do think Hillsborough's never really been the same since. And there is some ghosts from that, and I think because of that, at some stage, it would be a good idea for us to move stadiums. And I think there's only so much we can do with Hillsborough because of the geography and where it is. It's in a residential area. It's next to a river. It did flood in the early 2000s.
Wow.
There was a flood in Sheffield. The River Don overtopped its banks, flooded the local mall, Meadowhall, which I don't know if you've been to, Paul, the big mall.
No.
Okay, it flooded that. It flooded the football ground. It flooded a load of factories, probably some houses as well. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think Hillsborough does have a certain character and history, but I just think it's just not been the same since that disaster. And every time you go, you walk past the memorial, it's covered in Liverpool flags.
Sure.
And I don't know, has
there been talk of a new stadium? I mean, is there anything afoot there?
Yeah, I think there's always rumours, and it's like, it's like the rumours about Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United are going to merge to form a super. There's always things like that mentioned. Now, we have our Thai billionaire owner, Mr. Chancerai, and he's talks about all sorts and spending lots of money. And I think, it's talked about, but is it likely in the foreseeable future? Well, no. Yeah. So I think for the the sort of short to medium term, no, we're likely to be at Hillsborough just due to our reduced financial circumstances going into League One.
So I want to talk about that and about Mr. Chancerai, but first I just wanted to ask, which pub do you go to before the game? Is it always the same one?
Yeah, it's you know what, I forgot the name of it. It's
but you know where it is.
Oh, yeah, I do know where it is. It's kind of popular with Wednesday fans, and it does really nice food as well.
Okay.
It's like the Corner Bar or something it's called.
Okay.
But it's really convenient, and it's always rammed. But it's and it overlooks the stadium as well.
Oh, so I think I know the one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite modern. It's got an upstairs bit, and you can look out and see the stadium.
Yeah.
I just forget the name of it, but
I think I remember standing actually over at the Hillsborough, the memorial from the disaster. And it seems to me it's just up the hill from there. I remember seeing people outside on the deck and everything. And
that's it. It's that one. Okay. I just can't remember that. I can't recall the name.
It sounds like you're a creature of habit, right? Same pub, same stand. Do you?
Well, to me, I mean, that's a lot. That's what it is for a lot of football fans. It is tradition, and I hate to. It's like Christmas. It really doesn't make any sense that every year we have a man in a white beard and red robe, we decorate Christmas. If you actually thought about it,
right,
you'd think it's ridiculous. Now, it's a lot of those things with, football. It's like you go with your dad, you support the same team, you go to the pub beforehand, you have drinks at half time, you have a pie, you have a bovril.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you actually thought about it, you'd be thinking, why am I doing this? But it's like, it's part of life. It's like a lot of things. It's, it's tradition. It's what you brought up with. It's what you know. It's what you grow to see as normal, I guess. And that's what you do.
Yeah.
So
I have a hard time getting to Bovril as being normal, but I have tried it.
Yeah, so Bovril.
I had to.
Yeah, Bovril is it's almost like a drinkable version of Marmite. Have you had Marmite?
Yeah,
Marmite.
Yes, but I did. That's even worse.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So it actually comes from the brewing process.
Right.
It's actually a byproduct from brewing, so we have a lot of it made in England.
Yeah,
Marmite.
I can
There's a lot of
only
brewing going on.
Right.
So, yeah, no, Bovril is like a beefy drink that is traditional in football grounds as well as beer. And
Right.
obviously, the great advantage of Bovril is that it's a warm drink and you can drink it on the stand. Whereas obviously beer you can't take to your seats.
Right.
You have to have beer. You're not allowed to take beer on actually, football side. You have to have it.
Right.
You have to have it behind where the bar areas are because of the regulations.
So, any particular, if somebody is coming to Sheffield to see a game, and I always encourage them to do so. Now we know which pub to go to. Any particular? Is there a food that Sheffield's known for? I mean, I guess as a Wednesday supporter, maybe you don't want to talk about greasy chip buddies, but
yeah, I mean they're not owned by Sheffield United. I mean they sing about it, but it's not. They don't own chip butties. I'm not having that.
That's good.
No, I mean obviously Sheffield is in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Yorkshire is known as God's county.
Okay.
So if God created a place on earth, it would be Yorkshire. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yorkshire food. I mean, Henderson's relish. Did you have some of that, Paul, when you came?
I
that
did
special
not.
sauce.
Henderson's relish. No, I didn't have that.
Yeah, so they do it in special bottles. Again, something for you to research. Where it's a local company. It's a famous sauce. It's like Worcester sauce. Have you heard about? Do you know what Worcester sauce is?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's Sheffield's version of it. So Leah Perrins is a famous English sauce. It's similar.
Okay.
Like a spicy sauce. You're supposed to have it with pies. Okay. Now, Henderson's Relish, which is your local company, they actually make it in blue and white and red and white jars. And depending which team you support, you can buy it in blue and white or red and white.
That's good marketing. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, they have done that in the past, and I'm sure they still do it. But obviously, it creates stock problems in that if you run out of the blue ones and you're in a Wednesday part of town, probably nobody's going to buy the red one. But it's just. Yeah.
So I'm familiar with Yorkshire pudding. I mean, I guess that's a thing.
Yorkshire pudding, yeah. So if you go into, we have Yorkshire pudding generally with our Sunday roasts.
Right.
So Yorkshire pudding is a sort of delicacy that's made with like roast beef and gravy. So you would have prime rib in the States.
Right.
So we would tend to eat roasts on a Sunday. And we would have those with gravy, potatoes, vegetables. And Yorkshire pudding is made with milk, flour, eggs, and all sort of mixed up. And it's just a yummy little savoury. I don't particularly know why it's called Yorkshire. But yeah, I mean, the food in Yorkshire tends to be really good with pies, meat and potato pies, all kinds of pies.
We have in the States, we have a brand of tea called Yorkshire tea. Is that
Yorkshire tea. Yorkshire tea is actually made in Harrogate.
Okay.
So Harrogate is in Yorkshire. It's actually North Yorkshire, whereas Sheffield is in South Yorkshire. But yeah, Yorkshire tea is made by a company that's based in Harrogate that actually own a very famous tea room called Betty's Tea Room, where basically you can go and have tea and cakes. It's like Buckingham Palace. It is that posh. People serve you in gloves.
Wow.
If you're ever in Yorkshire, if you go to North Yorkshire, in a town called Harrogate, there's a place that's called Betty's Tea Room, and it's like Buckingham Palace. And that is the company that does Yorkshire tea. Basically, I've got some actually in my cupboard in there. I like Yorkshire tea as well. So it's good stuff. Yeah.
Tea
created the British Empire, Paul. Remember that the British Empire was based on tea.
I know. What are is there a traditional beer up there? I'm sure there's more than one, but what's a Yorkshire beer that comes to mind?
Well, there's just so many. There's loads of these craft beers now. So
sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've spent some time here, Paul. So there's how many types of beer? It's not.
Well, so I don't know. What would your granddad have been drinking?
He would sort of drink maybe Stones or Wards. So Wards is a company that was traditional with synonymous with Sheffield United. They used to sponsor Sheffield United. They used to be based near where Sheffield United are in Sheffield. I don't think they're around anymore, but so more like bitters. My dad's a bitter drinker as well, whereas I tend to go for lagers, which is regarded as a bit more modern. So what you would regard as things like Coors Light, Budweiser, be something that there's lots of different varieties of. And then, of course, we have all the craft beers now. So there's, you can have Sheffield lager, Sheffield beers, and
What would you be having
many.
before a game at Hillsborough? What are you drinking?
I tend to have like Guinness. I tend to drink a lot of Guinness these days, which is actually Irish.
Yeah.
Although it's actually owned by Diageo, we're actually a British company.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's known as Irish, but I don't know. Is it? I don't know. Right. But yeah, so whatever's going, whatever looks good. Yeah, there's a good local brewery called Thornbridge as well, based in Bakewell. Did you ever go there, Paul? When you were here? Bakewell?
No.
Okay, that's a little town in the really picturesque town in the Peak District. They have their own brewery called Thornbridge, and they do lots of. They do a beer. It tends to be towards sort of Christmas time. It's bright purple. They call it Belgian Blue. I think it's made from like raspberries or something, but it's bright purple, but it's quite sweet, but it's lovely.
Okay.
So if something like that's available, but it's only at certain times of the year, I'll have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's, as you know, we're a nation that's not only built on tea but also built on beer.
Yeah, and pie as well. My goodness, you people love pie, don't you?
Yeah, and it always amazes me that often countries around the world think that we're terrible cooks or we eat horrible food, and I don't know. I always find our food yummy compared to.
Actually, I enjoy pies. I enjoy fish and chips and all the traditional stuff, but I also love a good curry. I mean, there's plenty of great food there. So
yeah, and I have lived in some other places, and I think the sort of quality you get for what we pay. Yeah, we get a good deal. Really, we get like really high quality food for cheap, really, compared to a lot of places I've been in the world.
Now, we've mentioned the Peaks District, and we talked about it a little bit before I started the recording here, but a lot of people don't know this about Sheffield, but I mean, it's part of the city is almost like in a national park, right? I mean, there's a tremendous area just outside the city. I took a city bus out to Grindleford and went for a lovely walk up through the moors and everything. I mean,
it's beautiful. Yeah. So Sheffield's famous because I'm always really proud to say I'm from Sheffield because A, we invented football with Sheffield FC, and B, we invented modern steel making. So two of the things that built the modern world, and stainless steel was invented by accident here by a steel magnate who mixed normal steel with with certain ingredients, and then thought the experiment had not worked, threw it outside, and then discovered, oh look, it's not rusting. Yeah, that is how stainless steel was invented. Okay. That was invented in Sheffield. Right. So, yeah, I can't remember exactly how you make stainless steel. It's like normal steel with additives, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's originally. So yeah, so Sheffield is amazing in that we invented football and steel, two of the things that built the world. And in Sheffield, with the geography, the south and west are kind of face onto the Peak District, which is a really big, really picturesque, nice area. Mm-hmm. And you've got a huge stately home there. And I always say, if you look for Chatsworth House, do a search from the internet. Now, Chatsworth House, I would argue, is probably one of the most finest palaces in the world. It makes Buckingham Palace, which obviously Americans probably familiar with, look like a row house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Buckingham Palace is not that attractive a building to me. I don't really care. So.
Yeah, well, you look at Chatsworth. Okay. It's right in the middle of the Peak District. You know, It was built hundreds of years ago out of stone. You know, it is like the Palace of Versailles, and it's literally 10 minutes from where I am here. It's like 10 minutes away. It's a jewel. Yeah, and it's a real big tourist attraction. There's tons of hotels around it, and you can walk. Go in there. We've got cafes where you can eat all the local foods. It's a working farm and stuff, so you can have, for example, the lamb. Are you familiar with lamb? The sheep from sheep. Basically, lamb meat. You can buy like lamb and from the local estate, and they grow all food. And there's a shop, farm shops, and it's just a very picturesque nice area. It's known for walking, which is free here, and you don't have to pay. You just, as you know, Paul, you just plan a route, put your boots on, and go.
Like I say,
So-
I took a bus, just a regular city bus from Sheffield out because the train wasn't running that day for some reason. And so I took a bus, went for a lovely walk, got a chip buddy at the station, took a bus back to town, went to the game. I thought it was a very Yorkshire kind of day. So
yeah, it is God's county.
yeah, well, I do hope to maybe one day, if not live over in the UK, at least spend big chunks of time, maybe starting this next football season. And so Sheffield's on the list. It's a lovely place, but it's also convenient. I mean, what's it, a 2-hour train ride to London, maybe, and an hour to Manchester?
I think if you get on the fast train, I think you can do it in like 2 hours. Yeah.
To London.
So to get to Manchester, you go over the Peak Districts. It's a really picturesque train ride. You see all the little towns in between.
Yeah. The Pennines Express, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Transpennine Express.
Transpennine Express, right?
Yeah. We're 45 minutes from East Midlands Airport, so you just get on the M1, which is that's the big north-south road in the UK. It's like 4 lanes in each direction. So you have again about sort of 10 minutes. 10 minutes from here, you're at East Midlands Airport, or you get the train to Manchester Airport, which is about 45 minutes, an hour. Or you can drive there. And obviously, Manchester's quite a big airport. Or 2 hours to London if you get the fast train. Depends which train you get. So, and they are building the high speed rail now. That's going to be even quicker, but that's going to take, I think, about a decade to build. So that's in construction. There's going to be a station in Sheffield somewhere as well. So.
And the city itself, I mean, there's a couple of colleges, right? A couple of universities in town. So it's quite beautiful and vibrant town.
Yeah. Obviously been affected like everywhere by the pandemic. So it's probably not quite as vibrant as it was. But we have 2 world-class universities. I think Sheffield University's in one of the, I can't remember, I read recently, is it the top 100 or top 50 in the world? It's one of the, it's a good university. It's famous for metallurgy. Obviously, Sheffield inventing stainless steel, modern steel making. It is famous for that. And it has sprawling campuses all over, and obviously accommodation here and there. We have a lot of students, international students, who come to Sheffield because of that. It's quite unique as well because it tends to be the city where a lot of students stay after, because it's quite reasonably priced. It's quite an affordable city, maybe compared to other more sort of popular places. You can still probably buy a starter house here for 100,000. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you go to the more popular, bigger places and it's a lot more expensive. Whereas we've always been very affordable. It's also famous as well for World Snooker, the World Snooker Championships.
Oh yeah.
Been held here since, I think it was the late 70s at the Crucible Theatre.
Okay.
So every year we get, Sheffield's all over the TV for that, and we get international visitors coming to the Crucible. Sheffield to me is like quite an undiscovered, place.
So getting back to Wednesday, then, yes, your owner, Mr. Chensurai, is that right? A Thai billionaire.
Chensurai.
From the outside, and from what I've read a little bit, and I put a blog post on my website, which I will link to here. He seems like at best a character and at worst a real mess. I mean, kind of a problem. Crazy person. He put his name all over the stand and set up companies that don't exist to sponsor the club. I mean, it just strange goings on.
So there was some other Thai owners in English football. Do you remember Leicester FC and that helicopter that took off and then they crashed?
Yep.
And then the obviously those owners died.
Now. Yeah.
That's Leicester, and then there's Wednesday. Mr. Chancerai. I mean, obviously he took over from Milan Mandaric, who was another one of these people who buys sports clubs and then sort of sells them on. So it's a little bit like, and I know you have the program in America because I've seen it where the is it Mike Hammer, and he fixes up houses. He does up houses.
Sure. Yeah. We have a lot.
You know,
of
house flipping. You
Yeah.
know house flipping.
Yeah.
So, you know, and to be fair, that is kind of what seems to have been happening with football clubs, English football clubs, in that, you know, so we had a guy, Milan Mandaric, who was from the Eastern Bloc somewhere, and he came in when Wednesday was in trouble last time, bought us, stabilised us, sold us on to Chancery and made, you know, quite a bit of money. But then Chancery was always a bit of he just appears to be somebody who had more money than sense. And, you know, I'm an avid listener of Radio Sheffield and Football Heaven. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, Radio Sheffield, every night. The phone-ins. It's really good. Local people call in every night, and football's one of those things that you can perennially argue about, because it's like studying a waterfall. People see different things dependent on their point of view. So yeah. So to me, Chancery is like he had more money than sense, and I think one of the mistakes that he made, he's made lots of changes. Like, he changed our logo. We always had a bit of an 80s logo of an owl at Wednesday, and he's changed that to this more up-to-date version, which everybody who I know seems to hate the up-to-date version. He's changed all the food in the catering. You know, he made it sort of, you couldn't pay cash anymore when you bought some beers at half time. You have to use a card. Just he's put his name all around the stadium, as you say.
Yeah.
And I think so. Yeah, some of that comes across as a bit of a megalomaniac, an egocentric sort of megalomaniac. But then also, I think really the greatest mistake he made is that he spent a lot of money, put people on well-paid, you know, ridiculously long contracts, so that, you know, we use this phrase journeyman.
Yep.
People, I don't know if that's a phrase that's
we have
popular in the States.
Yeah.
So, you know, why wouldn't you just turn up to earn, you know, $1 million a year? You know, and even if you don't particularly care, you're still getting $1 million a year,
right.
even if you sat on the bench and not paying. So I think he took a few people on who maybe he shouldn't have. He did a lot of it himself, like he thought he knew better. He didn't have anybody with local and football experience. And I think in some ways, maybe some of the players, some of the people in the football industry took advantage of him. And I think he spent a lot of money, and we've not really gone anywhere, or we've gone sort of backwards. He's also now, to get some money back, so we used to own our stadium. He's now sold our stadium to us. And we have to pay him now several £1 million a year in rent, so that he got some of his money back
that you previously owned.
Yeah, so he's like done a reverse mortgage where he's got money out of the club by selling the stadium, and then we pay rent on the stadium. So we've gone from owning our stadium to paying rent on our stadium,
right?
Because he's trying to get some money back. So, and some people are saying, you know, he actually hasn't got enough money, like he's a bit of a plastic billionaire. And there's been rumours recently that, you know, some of the players may actually use clauses in the contract to actually just walk out because they haven't been paid. They haven't been paid the wages.
Wow.
So
and meanwhile, I mean, all of this could be chalked up to eccentricity and maybe some poor business decisions, but also with the points deduction that came from the league, right, for financial
because of financial fair play.
Now you've been relegated. Now you're down in League One. When was the last time you were in League One?
A long time ago. Yeah, maybe 10 years ago or so. So
yeah. So this is
this
is a disaster.
So Mr. Chancery was a football, you know, a financial football flipper, and he's got in the situation where he's tried to be smart. He was banking on us getting promoted early, getting up, and then he would have made his money back and made money. But actually, he's got the worst of all worlds now, because we got relegated. He's put a ton of money in, which is probably lost, and he's going to have to keep. We've had COVID as well, so
yeah.
I mean, some people who are real doom mongers are saying, you know, will Wednesday survive? What's going to happen? You know, what's the future? I don't know. So
What do you
We don't
think? I
really
mean,
know.
is it does it seem that bad to you, or have you been around long enough that you've seen this kind of thing happen before? I mean,
I've never known it to this extent. Not with Wednesday. I know it's happened to other clubs,
yeah,
but you know, uh, who knows? I think the thing is with Chancerai, he appears to do these club forums and he does club press conferences, and he appears to be quite open, but then he actually tells you nothing. He'll do these 3-hour conferences, but actually, when you look at the detail, he's not told you a thing.
right.
So yeah, he's a funny, and he goes on about some fans have been insulting his son, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
who knows. I think sometimes really rich people, billionaires, try and use football clubs like they're buying a classic Mercedes or something, like they're
I
just
think so.
adding to their
Like a
wealth
hobby.
collection.
Yeah,
Yeah, almost like a hobby, and yet, this is part of our history and culture you're messing with. It's not,
yeah.
it's like when Oprah does her interviews with the royal family. I mean, you got to be careful. You're not dealing with the normal,
Right.
people. So
So
this is
what's
the
the
thing.
move then as
It's
you look at League One next year? I mean, you're not you're going to be playing Rotherham, right? And you're going to be playing Wycombe
yeah. Rotherham,
Wanderers, and
Rotherham went down with us, who are
yeah,
obviously a local club. So it is what it is. The thing is, with football, Paul, you're doing it for life. You're not. It's like family. You don't choose your family. You stuck with them. So, and it's like your football team. And I don't know if that's the same in the States, because I know with your franchises, sometimes they change cities, they change names.
right,
Maybe the relationship's a little bit different. But here, thick or thin, you're still an owl. You can't change that. It's you can't swap teams.
right.
You know. Yeah, so it is. It's probably. It's yeah. Yeah. It's a lifetime thing. I'll always be interested to know how Sheffield Wednesday are doing. I always
Yeah,
want them to do well, and there's no getting away from it. And it's one of those things, and it's great when your team's doing well. You like boost your life because you're like, oh, brilliant, Wednesday have won, and then when they're not, you're like, oh no, we're not doing good, and it's one of those things. It's like it's in the background, and it's there, but yeah, there's no getting away from Wednesday. We're in League One, and it is what it is, and it's drama, isn't it? And that's why people love football,
I guess so.
because
That
it's
that and
pure
the
drama. It's
yeah
drama.
that and the goofy traditions. I mean, you're going to be at the same
Yeah,
pub and in the same North Stand next year, no matter who they're playing, right?
yeah, and it's just something you brought up with, and yeah, it's weird. As I say, you can't a lot. Some things you just can't explain, but you're going to do it anyway. So yeah, we're going to be in League One, but so what? It's football, and there's going to be drama. The call-in shows on the radio. There'll be people ringing in and with different opinions, and it's like a soap opera. There's always drama. There's always something kicking off, and that's probably what makes it interesting.
Sure.
The drama of it all. And obviously we have the promotion and relegation system,
Yep.
so you're not guaranteed. It depends on how you do, and it is what it is. It's just unfortunate that Wednesday have just really struggled recently. But we have as a kid, I remember, has been in sort of Division 1, and we were one of the best clubs in the country, but recently no. So
Well, I hope they get back on the up.
well, we always say, and I listen to the phone-ins, and we have a fan. He's called the USA Owl. So
Yeah.
I know we have fans globally, and we're always a club that says we're a big club, we're a sleeping giant with this, that. We think we're a big club. We have a lot of supporters globally. I don't know if how many we have or whether that's true, but we probably like the quirky choice, the sort of weird choice for people globally. Why would you a club that's called Sheffield Wednesday? I think, and as well, that makes probably Wednesday unique is that is our name. When it's like Sheffield Wednesday,
Yeah.
and then all the rumours and
Yeah.
stories around that as well. Like we discussed at the beginning,
I love
They're
it.
just a quirky choice.
As a neutral and as a relative newcomer to the game, I mean, it's probably a heresy, I guess, but I'm a big fan of both Sheffield clubs because I love the city and because
Only
I
an
love the
American would say
older.
that.
I know. Well, but believe me, there's teams in America that I'm completely irrational about and hate everything about them. But our biggest rival here, I'm a Portland Timbers supporter.
Yeah, I
And,
know that. Yeah.
We like to,
Yeah.
some of the more hardcore among our crowd will say that the best thing that could happen is for a meteor to strike a sellout game at Seattle Sounders and just, take them all out.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Not quite that bad. I'm not in that camp, but but no, I admire the city. I admire both of the stadiums. I like the older style grounds, and I think I admire a fan base that sticks with them no matter what. So I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a real rivalry in Sheffield. I think the Steel City, derby is sort of, because Sheffield's such a proud city as well. I mean, probably if you think of it in American terms, somewhere like an American Steel City like Pittsburgh.
That's it.
Sort of that kind of mentality, or maybe somewhere in one of the steel towns in Pennsylvania. That kind of.
That's what I often tell people here about the rivalry, because Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL are such a big team with such a history and so many fans and great players and everything. And then I tell people, right, so imagine if there was another team with a similar history in Pittsburgh. That would be a pretty good rivalry, wouldn't it? So that's Sheffield for you. So So as a neutral, I hope you get back to the championship. I'd be happy just to see them play each other again and come hang out in Sheffield. So
yeah, and that's what I was hoping was going to happen. I was hoping we were going to stay up, and then at least we'd have the derbies to look forward to. But unfortunately, on the last day of the season, Wednesday went down. I think we were staying up for about 15 minutes with how the results were looking. Then we went down. So it's just it's providence, isn't it? I don't know. I'm a Christian. I believe God's guiding things a little bit, and we decided it's time for Wednesday to go down. So you've got to go with the gods. Don't fight the gods.
No, you cannot fight gods. That is an irresistible power.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're due to go to League One, and then maybe we can improve and get some players together, and get back in the Championship. We shall see.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. And